Everyone dreams of that one big turning point. That one magical day when everything finally changes. Your grades shoot up, your body transforms, confidence just appears out of nowhere, and life suddenly feels like a movie. But for most of us, that day never comes. And it's not because we're lazy. It's not because we're stupid. It's because we're waiting for a giant leap while quietly ignoring the tiny, almost invisible steps right in front of us. Let me tell you a story. There was a boy named Zain. If you saw him in a classroom, you wouldn't notice anything special about him. He always sat in the third row, never the first, never the last. His marks were always just enough to pass. He dreamed of speaking fluent English, but his tongue froze solid whenever the teacher even looked in his direction. In sports, he was always the substitute, the extra player no one picked first. Every single night, Zain would promise himself, from tomorrow, I will completely change. He binge-watched motivational videos, feel a fire ignite in his chest, and write out these massive, ambitious plans in a shiny new notebook. Study for 6 hours, wake up at 4 a.m., run 5 kilometers. No games, no distractions, no mistakes. And then, the next morning, the alarm would ring. He'd wake up, but his body would feel like it was made of lead. Maybe from next week, he'd whisper to himself, hitting snooze. The notebook stayed blank. His dreams stayed stuck inside his chest, heavy as a stone. One evening, after failing yet another test, Zain sat alone on the rooftop of his house, just staring at the city lights. He thought, maybe I'm just not made for success. Maybe some people are born for it, and some people are just born to watch from the sidelines. As he sat there, lost in his thoughts, his older sister Aisha joined him with 2 cups of tea. She took one look at his face and knew something was broken inside him. That night was the beginning of a truth that would quietly rewrite his entire life. She didn't shout at him or give him some long, boring lecture. Instead, she asked a simple question that cut deeper than any scolding could. Zain, if changing everything at once is crushing you, why don't you try changing almost nothing? Zain frowned. What do you mean, changing almost nothing? Aisha took a slow sip of her tea and pointed to an airplane in the night sky. Look at that, she said. From down here, it looks like it's moving so slowly you can barely see the difference. But if it keeps going in that same direction, in a few hours, it will be in another country. The difference between here and there isn't one huge, impossible jump. It's countless tiny movements you can't even see. Zain stayed quiet, listening. She continued, your problem isn't that you're weak. Your problem is that you demand a total transformation instead of a simple improvement. You want to become a brand new person overnight. But life doesn't respect that. Life rewards the one who just shows up for the tiny steps, again and again and again. Then she gave him a simple challenge. Tomorrow, don't try to study for 6 hours. Just sit at your desk for 10 minutes with your books open. No phone, no music. Just be there. If you want to stop after 10 minutes, you can. That's all. It sounded almost insulting. 10 minutes? What good could 10 minutes possibly do? But the next day, when the clock struck 8 in the evening, Zain remembered her words. For once, he didn't argue with himself. He didn't promise any miracles. He just sat down, opened his book, and started reading. The first 3 minutes felt awkward. His mind was racing, looking for any reason to escape. But then a strange thing happened. Once the engine had started, it didn't feel so hard to keep it going. 10 minutes passed, and without even thinking about it, he kept reading for another 10. When he finally stopped, he had studied for a solid 20 minutes. It wasn't anything earth-shattering. No dramatic music played. There was no visible change. Yet inside, something tiny had shifted. For the very first time, he had kept a promise so small it was almost impossible to break. The next evening, he repeated the same rule. Just 10 minutes. And again, he went past it without even noticing. Within a week, studying for 20 minutes felt completely ordinary. He wasn't a top student. He still made mistakes. But under the surface, His identity was shifting from a boy who quit grand plans to a boy who trusted tiny steps every single day. After 2 weeks, Aisha noticed something strange about Zain. He still hadn't transformed into some new person. He still watched some useless videos, still forgot his water bottle at home, and still laughed at silly memes. On the surface, he seemed like the exact same average boy. But his evenings were no longer wasted. Those 10 minutes of studying had quietly grown into 40, not by force, but by quiet, consistent habit. Aisha smiled. "Now, try the same rule for something else," she suggested. "You hate exercise, right? Don't promise yourself you'll get a six-pack. Just do 5 squats a day. Only 5? If you skip a day, just start again tomorrow." No drama. Zain rolled his eyes, but he tried it. 5 squats soon became 8, then 10. Within a month, he could do 50 without collapsing. His legs grew stronger before his ego even had a chance to notice. Next, he attacked his fear of English. Instead of vowing to become fluent in 3 months, he wrote just 1 short sentence a day in a small notebook. Some of the sentences were broken, some were grammatically wrong, but he did it daily. 30 days later, those shy single sentences had turned into full paragraphs. One day, the teacher suddenly asked him to introduce himself in English. His voice shook a little, but the words came. The whole class stared. Zain didn't speak like a native speaker, but he didn't stay silent like he used to either. And here's the truth that most of us miss. Big change rarely feels big while it's happening. It feels boring. It feels repetitive. It feels like just 10 minutes, just 5 squats, or just 1 sentence. You don't get a round of applause for these tiny, unglamorous actions. But these are the quiet bricks that build a completely different life. Months later, Zain sat on the rooftop again. The city lights hadn't changed, but he had. His marks had improved, his posture was straighter, and his words were clearer. He finally realized there was never going to be one magical day that changed everything. There were only many small, ordinary days that he refused to waste. So tonight, don't wait for a miracle. Don't write another grand plan. Just choose 1 tiny step. Something so easy that you can't possibly run from it. Then do it again tomorrow. And let time do what force never could. Turn your small, consistent steps into a life-changing journey. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more.